All right, well, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Silver Stacking Podcast. This is episode 7. We've made it
Damn,
to
dude.
7 episodes,
Wow.
which
Wow.
is insane. Now, to celebrate episode 7, we had a celebration last time in episode 6 with the silver giveaway, but I do want to give a shout out to Silver Slayer. If you are looking at his direction, you know that he has a new camera. Check it out, guys. He got a new
No
webcam.
blur.
So
No blur anymore. No
we are
blur.
stepping
What the
it up.
heck?
We are stepping it up.
Yes. Yes.
So we're
Yes.
just trying to make these, different improvements for the podcast and everything. So shout out to
Yes.
Silver Slayer for that. And also shout out to one of our subscribers who we can't really pronounce their name pretty well, but we call him 11. This person was
Yes.
actually the winner of the first giveaway. So shout out to them. And also shout out to Bullion Max. Bullion Max was actually the sponsor of the giveaway. And honestly, so was Silver Slayer because Silver
Mm,
Slayer is also throwing in some silver there as well.
yeah.
So again, shout out to Bullion Max for even just being the sponsor of the channel. They got some great silver here, free shipping over $199. So thanks again to Bullion Max. And to start out today, on our last episode, we put a poll out there and we asked you guys, which do you prefer, coins or bars?
Bars.
Now, before we get into some of the comments, it was pretty much overwhelmingly coins. Now, as you guys know, I'm a pretty big coin guy. Silver Slayer, I believe, is also. Are you a coin guy, Silver Slayer?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Okay.
actually started off more with bars, but your stack definitely changes over time or your preferences. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So before we get into reading some of the comments, as far as people's rationale, what are the pros and cons to coins versus bars?
Well, they're two completely different types of, I guess, investments because bars is just all about the metal content, but there's actually a whole. Okay, so there's poured silver, there's cast bars, right? Poured
Mhm.
silver, it's an art. People hand pour these, so there's very low amounts that are made, maybe 200, 500 max, and it's since it's hand poured, it's like a piece of it's like a collection. So there almost does grow premiums for some of those bars as an art piece, but also the metal content. So some of these poured silver pieces will grow like pandas and kookaburras over time.
I see.
If it's just like a normal cast bar, it's just sold for the like a 10-ounce bar, just sold for 10 ounces of silver. So it's a great way to lower your dollar per ounce average and get silver for cheap. But coins, the design changes sometimes depending on the coin. Um, I guess they're depending on the coin, there's lower or higher mintage numbers. So coins, obviously, they look nicer. They're government backed. They can profit on top of spot price. So both have advantages, but I like coins more personally. Most people do looking at the results.
And I didn't even think about that. It actually makes a whole lot of sense. I don't know why I didn't never thought about it, but obviously there's probably a bit of a added value to premium on just people designing the coins,
Yeah,
as opposed to, the work that kind of goes into it, the labor that goes into it, as opposed to just like pouring a bar of just silver and that's it,
yeah, yeah.
which makes a lot of sense. And for you
Stamping,
guys,
yeah.
um, you guys have also chimed in as well, as far as your rationale. So here we have some comments here that I filter for coins, and I'll filter it again for bars. But this guy named Freedom Will Ring basically said, I have mostly 1 ounce coins in rounds in my stack, but lately I'm fond of 5 ounce bars, and I've been buying them lately because they are new to me. I have some 10-ounce bars, but I just started seeing
Wow,
5-ounce bars recently. Now,
that's a
honestly,
good comment.
what's really
For
interesting about that is when I was in the live chat with everybody in the premiere section, someone, and I don't know if it was this guy, I don't think it was, because he also said he didn't catch it when it was premiering, but someone actually said that they prefer 5-ounce bars to 10-ounce bars because of how easy it is to sell to their local coin shop. They said their local coin shop actually prefers people to give him 5-ounce bars than 10 ounces, because when he resells it to people, people are have an easier
yeah,
time buying
yeah,
them than 10-ounce bars, which
that's
makes
it.
a lot of sense.
That's exactly why I never buy anything heavier than a 10-ounce bar. Because if silver goes like $100+, you just cut down your potential customer dramatically. Because not a lot of people can afford a bar that expensive. Just like with gold, I never buy really heavy gold because gold's expensive and it's going to be harder to resell a 1-ounce gold coin compared to like a quarter ounce. Or it can go on for various things. But yeah, that's a good point. Like 5 ounces is a good weight, I feel. I personally think 10 ounces is fine, but yeah, 5 ounce bar and his comment saying like they're just new to me. I think that's cool. He's having fun trying
Yeah.
new things. Just he's like, hey, this is new. Let's go for it. Like that's what you have to have. Like make it fun too. Don't just buy the same thing over and over. Like
And that was my problem. And that's again why I think, like, now I keep saying, like, I kind of want to restart my stack a little bit, or my strategy, because I was just kind of getting ASCs and maples over and over again. And now I'm just like, all right, let me explore some other things now. I kind of want to get bars and explore bars as well. I was thinking about starting with 10 ounces, but who knows? Maybe I might start with 5 ounces now that I'm hearing this.
yeah,
But going back to that guy's point, it makes a lot of sense, because if you think about it from the perspective of, let's say, stocks, for example, let's say Amazon, right? Amazon's, or better yet, a better example would be like, Tesla. A lot of people were talking about how, those shares are really high, and then they did fractional shares. And the rationale behind that is, well, you can reach out to more people because they can now afford it. You can reach out to more retail investors because now they cost less per
yep,
share. And it makes a lot of sense when you think about, well, hey, if I actually resell um, a a bar, I might have an easier time selling fractional shares, quote unquote, of like a 5-ounce, a bunch of 2 5 ounces, than just selling one single 10-ounce bar, you know?
yep.
So it pretty interesting way to kind of look at it. So let's go back to some of these comments. We also had Francois Landry said, I prefer coins, more liquid and nice to look at. I'll give you a like here. And
That's a good one. Liquidity is key.
yeah.
Yep.
Someone said a coin. I just like the
Like
artwork.
the
So to your
That's
point,
a
Silver
good,
Slayer,
yeah, man.
that's what this person likes. Let's see if we can search for bars here. So we just had that comment. This guy named Frank Park said, bars. At the beginning, I think it's smarter to try and acquire 1-ounce rounds or junk silver for use in barter if slash when the need arises. After you feel like you have a comfortable amount, it makes sense to buy in 10 or 100-ounce bars. Have to figure out a way to get your weight up and shave some premium off at
Yes.
the same time. It's better to buy in the dips, but ultimately silver is very undervalued. So
Oh,
all of it
yes.
is technically cheap if you have time on your side. So
Yes.
definitely want to give you
That
some
see,
love there.
that's exactly like that's so point on, dude. Like, man, he like, jeez, he made so many good points. Like
Yeah.
so many. See, it is okay. I don't want to tell people like what to do, but definitely starting off with 1-ounce generic rounds is the best way to go. And even like he
Mhm.
said, junk silver for use in barter. If when that like more of like an SHTF, junk silver is critical if you do think we're going to be in like a not even like apocalyptic situation, but for like for things to go south because it's fractional. If you're going to be bartering with someone and all you have is a 1 ounce coin, but the
Right.
thing you're trying to get is less than an ounce, you're not going to take a chainsaw to that coin. Like fractional
Yeah.
junk silver is perfect for fractionals because, like you said, they still have to stamp and design the fractional silver rounds from like Sunshine Mint, so they're
Mhm.
more expensive. So junk silver is the best way to get fractional for the cheap, I guess, route.
Yeah, and when
But
you're and like you said, when you're kind of buying on the dips, especially for those high premium ones, it's like, well, hey, this is a good chance to kind of get in, get some high
yeah,
premium when those dips happen. So once it goes back up, you can kind of realize that return of that higher premium.
yeah,
And
yep,
then maybe during times when, if you're dollar cost averaging or whatever, you might prefer to just get weight. You might prefer weight at that point. I'm still trying to think this through as far as like my strategy as I kind of get back into silver again and buy more. I'm thinking that, hey, maybe on some of these dips, I might go after some of that high premium stuff. But then as I
yeah.
just buy throughout, I might just focus more on just weight, you know.
He made a good point too. He said a lot of times he tries to buy a lot of the dips, but he said with silver being so undervalued, buying at any price in this range is still extremely cheap. But he also said, according to, or I guess, depending upon how long you're going to stack, which is
Yeah.
true. Like I always tell people, I'm not one of those coupon people that
Mhm.
like that will drive like an extra 10, 15 miles to the gas station just to get a penny off, which they just paid on the trip there, you know.
Yeah.
But like if it's like 20 cents cheaper or $1 more, I don't really care because the price I am thinking about selling silver is so much higher that whether I buy it $25 or $22, it really makes no difference to me. But a lot of people it does. I just never was one of those types of people. But
Right. But speaking of which, that
yeah,
leads us to our next
that
point.
was a good bridge.
That's a nice segue right there. So speaking of selling, we were talking, and a lot of people are buying, and maybe some people aren't even thinking about selling. But we want to create another poll because we love reading your comments in this video. We want to keep doing that,
Yeah,
getting
dude.
you guys engaged. But on the right side of this video, if you're watching on desktop, or below, depending on how you're viewing it on desktop, or if you're viewing it on mobile, go into the live chat. We're going to be asking you another poll. Basically, the poll is as follows. Are you planning on selling at these different price ranges? So the first one is going to be $0 to $49. The second one is $50 to $100. The next one is $101 to $200. And the next is $201 all the way on up. So
Yeah,
basically, you are not planning on selling silver until it goes past
yeah.
$201 into wherever it winds up, your price target or whatever. So those four options, choose, and we can't wait to hear what you guys
Yeah.
think. And also, after you choose, write down your rationale in the comments section so we can
Yes.
read it off again.
That's the most important part. Yes. A, B,
Yeah.
C, or D. Yes.
Mhm.
And it would be kind of be cool to hear like your opinion on what you would choose, TJ.
Yeah.
If you
So I base everything off of time horizon and what you plan on doing. So, um, for example, I personally, when it's all said and done, my strategy is to pass it down to my kids. So as I accumulate, I'm me personally, I don't even want to sell. I just want to pass it down to my
yeah.
kids. Um, but as in my life, as I'm accumulating, I do plan on selling at different times when it's really high, so I can buy when it's really low again, basically just kind of going in and out and in and out and out. But
Yeah.
then at the end of my life, I want to pass down a whole pile of silver to my kids. And, if they want to do that, they can. But I assume that my kids probably aren't going to be as obsessed with precious metals as I am. So they may just hold on to it as a stack. Hopefully they won't just like sell it, but you never know what people are going to do.
Yeah.
But I want to give hard assets to my kids. So I'm in the camp of maybe not selling, but again, in my life, it it'll probably be either one of these options depending on where it is, you know.
Yeah.
How about you, Silver Slayer?
Yeah, that's a. I mean, I'm probably gonna do the same thing, honestly. Like I plan on passing a lot of it down, but there's definitely gonna be times where like I'll sell 15%, maybe if
Mhm.
I need to pay something for my daughter's college, or I will sell like bits and pieces, but I would also reinvest at the next dip to enter back in. So like I'm always gonna have this like huge stack, but it's also like a way for me to preserve my wealth instead of keeping that in my bank account, then having to take that bank account money out to buy something for my daughter's college that's depreciating in value over these years. So it's almost like my
Exactly.
savings account, but also a place where if I need to take funds to buy something in fiat, I still can, you know. Um, I've never really thought of it that way either, like until you said that, where it's like we have this like moving, huge, just like safe value of stored hard-earned wealth that we can take from when we need. But also that kind of
Exactly.
just reminded me balance as well. Balance is key. Like
Mhm.
within your stack, if it's not balanced, like maybe you have way too much high premium and not enough of that standard bullion, um,
Yeah.
making your dollar per ounce average extremely high, it's going to be harder to break even. So I might have to do that with my stack, even maybe start buying some really cheap stuff to lower my dollar per ounce average, because I do have a
Yeah.
lot of expensive coins.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of which, as you accumulate over time, and if you want to pass it down to your kids, the one thing you have to start thinking about is storage. So Silver Slayer and I want to bring up this topic of just generally, what do you do with your silver? And um, you know, how do you store it? So there's this website called airtights.com. Silver Slayer actually put me up on this, yesterday, basically, because to be honest, when it comes to my silver, like I have it in this like safe, but it's not like the best safe, and I know some people have place their silver in various locations and stuff. I remember watching an episode of Another Overtaxed Taxpayer, really great channel that I like watching. I remember, and I don't know if he still does this, but I think he suggested or even said that he'll take like a black marker, scribble it all over his stack, and then put it into like a vent. So that way, if someone opens the vent, they won't even
Yeah,
know, unless they maybe have a flashlight.
yeah,
But I was just like, man, that's like a really intense way of like, hiding your silver around the house and not just having it in one location. That also kind of had me thinking about like diversifying your control, which is something I like to talk about a lot. But anyway, Silver Slayer, when it comes to storage and just keeping your silver in different containers, displays, this website here has different ways they can kind of like keep your silver in
yeah.
different
They have
displays, boxes.
they have everything there that you
Yeah.
need. If you
What are your
really
thoughts on this?
okay, so storage and security is the most important topic, like the most underlooked, because imagine like spending all these hours of watching YouTube videos, educating yourself, hard-earned dollars, and the reason you don't break even is because your own, your own, I guess, uh, selfishness of not looking far enough to protect your stack. Like you could rob your own self if you don't store your silver properly. So what I recommend is buying coin capsules. It's like 15-20 cents. And I remember making a video and I had a lot of I was showing my silver. I had like a whole bunch of silver, all in black gasket capsules. And someone said, "You're spending so much money on capsules, you could be buying more ounces of silver with that." And I said, I'm willing to pay 15 or 20 cents to ensure that coin will always stay in perfect condition, rather than not pay that 15 or 20 cents and lose several dollars of
Mhm.
that coin's, profit. Like it's like a 20 cents insurance policy. And when you buy in bulk, you can get these capsules for extremely cheap. But it does go farther than that. Then there's coin tubes, there's wearing gloves. But then if you have, let's say, if you live somewhere that's more humid, get a dehumidifier or wherever it's stored. If it's in your basement, there's silica gel packs. There's
Got
tarnish.
dehumidifiers right here
Yeah.
on Amazon.
Then there's tarnish strips. So it takes, I don't know exactly how tarnish strips work, but even silica gel packs you get in your shoe box. If you buy a new box of shoes or a new pair of shoes, the silica gel pack inside those, you can throw them in your safe. It takes out moisture. There's a lot of different ways to, I guess, protect your silver, because at the end of the day, especially if you have expensive, high premium stuff, if that coin gets scratched or milk spotted or something, that entire coin's premium condition's lost, because it's not a coin that's based off of the condition anymore. It's based off of metal content. So
Yeah,
it's
I'm taking a look
riskier.
at this here too. They have them at like 80 cents now. And it doesn't vary, it looks like, from coin to coin. It's like dimes, eagles, pennies, nickels,
Yeah,
half
they
dollars. They're pretty much all the same.
yeah,
Oh, well,
you got
actually,
to
no, half dollars are 85 cents.
yeah, you got to be careful because every coin has a different diameter. So like a maple leaf has a different diameter than an eagle, but like so on and so forth. So you have to know. And this site I like because they do tell you which ones fit which. But then there's also the coin tube. There's like an A, H. Those are all different sizes and fit different types of tubes. It can get a little confusing. So I have made like entire videos showing people how to size them. Yeah, there's A, H, T, I. All those fit different types, like maybe a 1/4 ounce, like gold
Hmm.
coins, or bigger ones, or even 2 ounce coins like the Queen's B series that are 2 ounces. They have ones for that. But yeah, there's a lot to it, but
Wow.
it's it seems overwhelming, but it's worth it, when especially if you're someone who doesn't just buy generics, or if you have a lot of pandas, kookaburras, or like collectibles, you definitely should
Yeah,
look
and I,
into
I
some
would
of this.
say to add to this, so like I never really bought those tubes because I I guess I would always buy like 20 ounces of ASCs, or you could say 25 ounces of
Yeah,
maple. So they would kind of come with the capsule,
yeah, there you
and I
go.
would just leave them in there. But I know there are people who will buy 1 ounce at a time. They'll say, "Hey,
Yes.
I'm every week or every 2 weeks when I get my paycheck, I buy 1 ounce of silver or something, or 2 ounces, 3 ounces, or whatever." At a certain point, you're gonna have a whole collection of them, and you're gonna want to put them somewhere. So, and it kind of, if they're all of the same year, the same type, and it's easy for you to kind of keep them all together, it kind of makes sense to get one of these capsules or tubes so you can hold them all in one sitting. So if you're like, hey, I want to, let's say, eventually sell, you're like, well, hey, this thing holds 20, it's all in this tube. I don't have to really like, flounder around and try to find like all of them and put them all
Yeah.
together and keep them like this as you're walking into the local coin
Right.
shop, and you're like, hey, can
Yeah.
you take these?
Yeah. I used to actually do that.
Mhm.
It's so good to organize, or using these tubes. It's such an advantage, because I would take a piece of tape and I would write on each tube like these ones are eagles. Then I would have my maples and go through that, and just to be able to have like 20, like you can count your stacks so easy. Just like one tube's 20, so you just have them all stacked up, and then
Yeah.
it even goes further than just that. Like there's different types of caskets. There's direct fits. There's the white gaskets. Then there like there's a whole like world to this that I feel like a lot of people don't look into, that I think they probably should, because like I said, it would be such a shame that at the end of the day you don't break even because something you did not, that's in your control, not just like spot price doesn't change or something. you could have made money, but you didn't because you didn't do something, you know?
Right, right. And my question to you is, before we leave the topic, and this is something I've never really thought about too heavily, like finding like a right amount, but is there a point where someone should consider um, not having their silver in their home and putting it in a vault? I know a lot of people are really concerned about that. I
Yeah.
haven't really thought about it too much. I don't know what I would do, but if you start stacking a whole bunch and you have heaps and heaps and heaps of silver, and would you consider putting it in or having SD bullion vaulted up for
No,
you, or
because then that's
another
not
site
mine.
vaulted up for
No,
you?
because if that happens, that means that silver isn't mine anymore. Because I'm not
Yeah,
in like control of it.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
I don't know
I
what I would do if I was buying that much silver. I would just switch over to gold at that point. If I had that
yeah,
much
yeah,
silver,
yeah.
because you can fit $100,000 worth of gold in a shoebox.
Right.
$100,000 worth of silver takes up a lot of space. But yeah, if I was
That's a good
buying that,
point.
yeah, I would definitely switch to gold at that point. But
That's a good point. Or there could be other types of metals. It could be like platinum or
yeah,
something.
platinum, yeah, or you could just buy like 1,000 ounce bars that, because I mean, coins
Oh,
do take
that's a
up
good
more
point.
space than bars do. You
Right,
know,
right. You can
so
easily just like stack them on top of each other.
yeah, yeah, like you see it in like a freaking like in like a movie or something. The vault opens up and there's just bricks of gold bars just piled. Like,
Yeah,
dude, that
yeah.
would be crazy. Like,
So to your point, the one of the reasons why I say people, or one of the reasons why I talk about silver and gold so much is because of this idea of diversifying your control. So some people may have stocks, they may have crypto, they may have, a bank account, but it's in the control of the brokerage, it's in the control of the bank or whoever, until you withdraw and you have the cash in your hands. But even the value of that is controlled by the central bank. But anyway, as far as control and actually having the asset in your hands, there's something that real assets can do for you that other assets can't. And it's like, well, hey, I have control of this thing. I can take it and go somewhere with it. And I can derive value at any time from it, depending on how someone else sees value in it. And there's just something about having that control in your hands that has a value to it than just keeping it elsewhere. And there's actually a term for this, guys. It's called convenience yield, if you want to think about it, from I guess you could say a nerdy standpoint. So can you see that, Silver Slayer? It's like
yeah,
a bunch of
holy
images.
crap.
So without getting too complicated, this is a formula for the futures price. A lot of us know about silver futures, gold futures, all that stuff. This is the formula to derive the uh, commodity futures price. So as you can see here, F is the futures, S is spot, and then you have Euler's. Without getting too complicated, that's whatever everyone knows. It's like the exponent variable. But here you have the risk-free rate at the time. And these are probably, and then you have time here, but these are the two most important parts that I want to talk about because it involves storage and convenience. The U is the storage cost per annum as a percent of the commodity price. Y is the convenience yield. And there's an inverse relationship between these two, is what people have found. As storage levels, not necessarily storage cost, but as storage levels come down, you'll find that convenience yields actually rise, and vice versa. As storage levels increase, convenience yields drop. And you start to find that the price of commodities react due to that. And the reason why I bring this up is because when you think about a convenience yield, what it essentially is saying is that there's a value to actually at different times holding the asset. So in the ways that all of us say, hey, if you don't hold it, you don't own it, or if there's a value to actually holding the silver, there's a value to actually holding the gold, and some people may look at you like you're crazy. Well, hey, there's an actual mathematical formula here that basically says you're right. There's actually a value to holding the asset. And sometimes it varies depending on different times. Like, I'll give people that. But generally, there is a model that looks at the value of actually holding the asset, and you can derive value from it at different times. So the interesting thing here is you can take a look at the potential for the price of silver and silver shortages and stuff like that based on you looking at this formula. So the futures price could be impacted by the storage levels and convenience yields currently today. You can see that today with the futures price. Long story short, I actually figured out what the current, and this is called the cost of carry, the U minus the Y. I actually figured out what the current cost of carry is, and it's about 0.048. Currently, the silver futures price is at 25.88. Silver spot is at 25.66. So currently, the cost of carry is about 0.048. Why is this important? Because if we ever see the silver futures price go crazy, just out of the ordinary, and the silver spot price is kind of just like tripping along, but the futures price looks like it's doing crazy stuff, that's how we know there's something potentially going on with the cost of carry. Something's going on with the storage levels, and something's going on with the convenience yield. And as the convenience yield gets bigger, it makes the cost of carry smaller. So if we ever see a time when the convenience yield or the cost of carry gets very, very low, we know those storage levels are becoming somewhat scarce. So it's one of those things that we can kind of take a look at even currently with what's happening with Russia and Ukraine. There's an article here that says, how high could Ukraine crisis push oil prices? And this is one of the ways that we can see it in real time, how storage levels and the cost of carry can impact prices. Take a look at this. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has already driven oil prices above $100 per barrel, which is something we all know. How high they ultimately climb will depend on many scenarios, including how far Russian troops move into Ukraine, whether stricter sanctions are inflicted by the West, how seriously energy flows get damaged in the conflict, and whether Russia halts oil and gas flows to Europe and the US. JP Morgan Chase reckons that an all-out war could prompt oil flows to drop by 2.3 million barrels per day, boosting prices to $150 per barrel and reducing global GDP by 1.6%. Energy intelligence reckons that a wider Russian invasion, coupled with harsh sanctions and Russian energy retaliation, could drive prices close to 120 BBLs. More severe escalation from this base scenario, like a complete shutdown of Russian supply to Europe, could add an extra $20 to that. So here's the most important thing. Even if the Russian operation is limited, the possibility of lingering tensions and a nervous market could keep prices closer to $100 than $90 near term, especially if OPEC plus especially OPEC plus keeps struggling to meet its production quotas. Part of that reflects a higher convenience yield. That is the marginal benefit of holding an additional prompt barrel in times of higher geopolitical uncertainty. So there's a benefit of holding the asset when there isn't that, or when there's a potential of not having it because of storage levels. So storage levels look pretty low or pretty bleak. You'll see convenience yields rise, which add to the price of the actual asset.
Kind of like a
So
silver shortage.
say that again.
Kind of like a silver shortage in like,
Exactly.
like,
Mhm.
yeah. And isn't there a direct correlation from oil prices to silver prices?
100%. So
So
mainly with and I know even with premiums too, as you kind of pass things down the supply chain with travel costs and energy costs when it comes to travel, for example, that gets added to premiums as well. So you see a lot of that stuff impact it, even oil going into CPI as well. So there is a relationship there between energy prices, oil prices, and
so
silver. Mhm,
so if it does hit $150 like JP Morgan reckons,
mhm.
what do you think that would push silver?
Oh man. Now that I don't know as far as like a direct number, but we are currently seeing prices rise with silver. So if you take a look here, I've got my website. Um, Currently silver is at $25.66. Now I don't have that as the input here that we can use. But you could technically say it's kind of baked into CPI because of the readings, because of the way that CPI is derived. But recently, we've been seeing real yields plummet. The last time I showed you guys this on this channel, real yields were at like 0.5, negative 0.5. Now real yields are at point or negative 0.83. And that drop alone has brought up this band quite a bit. It was the upper limit was around $25. Now the upper limit is at $26. And currently right now, silver is at $25.66. Same thing with gold. Gold was around my upper limit was like around 2060 something. When I plugged this number in, it brought up to about 2084. So real yields have really been plummeting for the 10-year, and it's been driving prices up. And as we know, well, by the time this video airs, we will know what will have happened with CPI. But the CPI number is coming out this week. And again, by the time this video airs, it will have already come out. But some people are expecting CPI to get to about 8%. Some analysts are calling for 7.8, but some people are expecting it could get to 8%. So, that is also likely driving these prices up, which again, as Silver Slayer mentioned, travel, oil, energy gets baked into the CPI price. So just one of those things to consider as we take a look ahead. When we talk about the silver shortage and everything, one of the ways that I think I'm going to try to keep an eye on it is by keeping a look at the cost of carry, which is that storage cost minus the convenience yield. So if we start to see that drop significantly because of potentially the convenience yield rising, then we might see, oh man, then there could be potential of there being lower storage levels of silver. So that's something I want to be keeping watch of. If I make a model of it, I'll share it with you guys so you guys can also keep track of it as well. But I might have to do some digging and
Yeah.
uh, doing some research on that. But if I can figure out a way to kind of look at this, that'll be kind of cool.
A perfect example of that was actually right when the virus hit.
Mm-hmm.
Mexico and Peru got hit very hard, and they accumulate over 40% of the global silver production.
Mm-hmm.
But when it hit, there were so many borders getting cut off and distribution chains that were cut off. Mexico
Mm-hmm.
and Peru couldn't ship all that silver around the world. So it was nobody could get silver, right? Because those two, it's like Mexico, Peru, Chile, Australia, China, those like the five biggest, and the two biggest got hit extremely hardest, plus the others, but not so much. But still, nobody could get their silver because all of the borders were closed. So I'm sure that had a huge effect on people receiving silver, also going into that to the convenience, and I'm sure that's like another example of how that could happen or how it could be hit so hard.
Yeah, so in that situation, that was the effect. That was actually the impact, causing almost like the opposite effect. So storage levels were likely pretty high because no one was really, like you said, there were all these like supply issues and demand issues, but storage was probably likely really high at that point, which is probably one of the reasons why we saw the spot price come down so much during that time. Remember, it dropped down to like
But
$11 or $12 or something. But
yeah,
on the,
I guess. Well, I know that was also when the U.S. Mint had a silver shortage because they couldn't receive the silver from their sources. So, but that does make
yeah,
sense that. Oh yeah, I mean, I guess that's a weird one, yeah, because since silver's not going out, they probably had a lot. But then also the places that need silver couldn't get it coming in.
mhm.
But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of variables in there, and
Yeah,
I haven't really looked at what was going on in 2020. That's just my initial assumption.
yeah,
But one of the things that you could also take away from that too, because there's also storage costs, is, well, maybe storage costs just like dropped really low, and there's two sides to that
yeah. That's
to
what
that
I just
equation.
realized.
So
Yeah, and
mhm.
uh, silver was actually the number one performing asset in 2020. It beat gold, Bitcoin, everything. Silver was the number one performing assets because it went from $11, and this is like actual data. Silver
Mhm.
beat gold was like number five or something. Tesla stocks and all that. Silver was number one because it was $11 in March, and then it shot up to nearly like 20 something, $30 by the end of the year, like within a couple of months.
Right. Yeah.
Which
So
is
in that
crazy.
situation,
Yeah.
now I'm not saying like convenience yield has like this huge pull there as far as price is concerned, but likely we had CPI rise, we had real yields were really low. That helped gold go up. Gold likely helped silver go up as well. But going from a point when there are probably like high storage levels, it probably dropped them really low as people are kind of getting off to the races as industry was trying to reopen up again.
Yeah.
So that probably also helped to drive silver prices up too. I need to take a look at futures prices and spot prices back in 2020 to really kind of get a handle on
Yeah. That would be
what
interesting.
was going on with the convenience yield at that time. My gut instinct is that maybe when we first had the shutdown, uh, convenience yields convenience yields were low and storage costs or storage levels were high. But then as a couple months came later, maybe we start to see the opposite
Yeah.
happen. But I haven't looked into that, but I think I'm going to try to look into that for you guys for a
Yeah.
future episode.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. The whole point is to just try to get our heads wrapped around this whole silver thing, man. So,
Yeah.
but for the most part, guys, the whole point of today's episode is to start thinking about storage, thinking about how we are holding on to our silver, start thinking about, well, is it best to keep them in safes, capsules? I know some of you guys might even say, well, hey, I might put in a safety deposit box. I'm not that kind of person.
Yeah.
I'd rather just, if I have cash, I'll leave it to the banks, but I'm not gonna leave this to the banks. Um, I'd rather have control of it on my end. Again, diversifying control. Any final thoughts on your end, Silver Slayer?
Um, no, I mean, just I would end this podcast just by saying, just be realistic. You don't want to live in this fantasy of just praying that silver someday is going to shoot till, go from 2,700 or go from $27 to 2,700. You know, you really want to real to okay, so I'll start it. I'll kind of backstep and start it like this. When you get into anything, you really want to look at its true value. You don't want to just hop on board because your friend is telling you, right? Um, And when you enter, you have to look within yourself. Like I always say, everyone has different financial situations, different exit strategies, bought in at different prices. All of that is going to finely tune your strategy. So what works for me won't work for you, and what works for you won't work for that person. So
Right.
when you're looking at these pricings, yes, someone might put in the poll box, they're going to sell at 50, but that might not be the best option for you, because maybe you bought it at a different price, or maybe you'll be selling in a different time. Maybe that guy's about to retire because he's 70. Maybe you're only 19, so you have a lot of time to wait. So
Time horizon.
don't always look at other people's strategies and tell them that they're doing it wrong, it's just very individualized, which is why I like it. But also try to be realistic. I always say, just because you can buy something doesn't mean you can afford to buy it. There's a big difference. And I don't want people to lose money, because a lot of people do that enter precious metals a lot of times by buying way too high of, or buying a lot of high premium silver and not enough generic or bullion. And they end up selling when they should be buying, and vice versa. So yeah, just try to invest with your head, not your heart, and learn from your mistakes. So
Yeah, and I really like what Silver Slayer said there, when he said, just because you can doesn't mean, you can afford it. And if you think about time, if you're, let's say getting up there in age, and you're hoping that you can get a decent return off of silver, it is effectively probably a little bit more expensive for you if you're just doing it for yourself. You're not, trying to pass it down, than it is for somebody who is younger, because they have this higher level of what's known as optionality with time. They just have more time. If you're like 15 years old and you're getting into silver, and you bought it at $28, by the time you're 70, I mean, I don't want to guarantee things, but I can just imagine
I can
if you're
guarantee.
15 and by 7, like what silver's probably going to be like. Who knows
Gosh,
what silver's going to
who
be, but like
knows?
you sell it at that point, you know, it was cheap for you to buy it at 15.
Yeah,
But if you're 70 and you bought it at, let's say, like a high price, then it might be like, oh man, well, this is more expensive for me because I got to think about when I can get out of this thing, and so on and so forth. So just think about time horizon as well. And Silver Slayer said it really well.
yeah,
So guys, thanks again for watching. This is episode 7. And
man.
again, shout out to Silver Slayer for that really good camera that he has going
Yes,
on right there.
yes,
We're
love it.
just trying to, we're trying to increase the quality for you
Yeah,
guys. And if you want to check out our silver giveaway and our great episode on episode 6,
that was a
check it out
fun
right
one.
here or here, wherever that video shows up. And thanks again for watching Silver Stacking Podcast.
Yes.